just a few minutes ago, your office tweeted that you're getting a lot of questions. Wait times are getting longer. How well equipped are you to handle these questions right now? How long are those wait times?
I don't have specific information about the wait times. I just know that the volume of calls we're getting is very high, in addition to the email volume. So the same staff answering calls are also answering emails. And we didn't really have funding to hire a bunch of additional staff just to take calls and stuff. So we're managing it with the existing election staff who are also doing their other jobs.
So how many folks are answering the phones? You don't have a huge staff.
No, our election department is quite small.
We're talking like 5 people?
No, it's, I should know this off the top of my head, but it's around 12.
12 people. So what are the top questions you're getting right now?
They vary across the board. People want to know where's their polling place, and what if I haven't gotten my early ballot yet? My son's out of state and they didn't mail his ballot to him yet, things like that. So it's the gamut. Folks are just obviously really engaged in this election, and that's a good thing.
Is there are there one or two things you need to just repeat over and over? And this isn't meant as an offense to voters, because people don't do this but every 2 years or 4 years. But are there one or two things you need to repeat over and over that folks need to hear one more time right now?
Well, I've been repeating Arizona.vote, 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 because almost every single question people have can be answered there. Where can I find a polling place and things like that. So that is, if people have questions, they're not getting through our lines, they should really check that website to make sure that the answer is not there.
Okay. And moving on, early balloting the counting of the early ballots started this week. It's a big deal. It's moved up 7 days from 2 years ago. Are all counties starting the early ballot count right now?
Yes.
So they're going. So
yep.
How does that change what election night will look like, in particular that the first 8 p.m. vote dump on election night?
Well, certainly that the 8 p.m. results that you'll see posted immediately are those early ballots that have been tabulated. And I think just by starting the process earlier, they're going to be able to get through more ballots, and which is great since we're seeing such a higher volume of people voting early in this election than we have in the past. So, so all of those early ballots probably that are received up until election day, all the ones that they've been able to process and signature verify will be tabulated in that first release of results.
And what does it do the day after election day? Because we try to remind folks, we're not just talking about election day, but really election week, election month, maybe.
We hope not.
How does that help the day after?
Yeah, I think it helps in terms of having more time to tabulate those ballots and ahead of time. And since we are seeing so many people vote early and actually drop off their early ballots earlier, we just don't know how many ballots are going to be dropped off on election day. So we don't know what that number looks like of how much post-election processing there will be to do. And obviously all of those ballots dropped off on election day have to be signature verified and then tabulated. Additionally, the election folks are working on provisional ballots, conditional provisional ballots, and any signature curing issues on mismatched signatures for those 5 days after the election. So I think that there are some processes that have changed, particularly in Maricopa County, that will make that more expedient. I don't think we're going to see 10 days to call any races. But I know election results on election night won't be final, and we don't know how close to final they will be until we know what that other number is of how many outstanding ballots there are, which we might not know till the day after.
Have there been any surprises along the way, things that you just didn't expect, issues that you've had to deal with?
Elections are really complicated, and we plan for them months ahead of time. We've been working with the county election officials across the state for months, knowing that 2020 was going to be a big election, knowing that Arizona was going to be in the spotlight in a different way than it has been in the past. And on top of that, the additional challenges of the pandemic. So I feel very fortunate that we were in the position we are in already with mail-in voting, that most of our voters already use that, and that we had kind of two, I don't want to call them test runs because every election is important, but we had the presidential preference election and the August primary to really work out all the kinks in terms of the elections during the pandemic. And so I think, we've been 2 weeks into early voting already and not seeing any major issues or problems.
Let's talk about the Navajo Nation. There was a court case involving them and the difficulties, challenges they face in mailing in ballots. What's the status of early voting on the nation, and how much of a challenge do you think it will be for folks there to get their ballots in on time?
Well, we set aside a significant amount of resources in the CARES Act money for the election, specifically to expand early voting, curbside voting, secure ballot drop boxes, and outreach to tribal communities, particularly the Navajo Nation. They were hit hard and early by the pandemic. Before the pandemic, there were already a lot of challenges. And we knew those challenges. And so we did a lot of work up front to help try to address them. We've been doing calls with the Navajo Nation Tribal Council, the president, just to make sure all of the bugs are worked out, and if there's things that we're missing, that we're able to get them. But we've done a lot of outreach and a lot of work to ensure that voting is as accessible as possible, knowing that voting by mail is a very particular challenge on the Navajo Nation.
So do voters up there have all the tools they need right now to get ballots in on time?
Well, I hope so. I think the increase of secure ballot drop boxes in Navajo and Apache County, and then Coconino County has been doing drive-through drop-offs. And so there are a lot more options for returning ballots, so folks don't have to rely on the mail. They can get them directly into the hands of the election offices. We've been working really hard to communicate this information directly to the voters there.
Okay, and what about mail service? That was a big concern before voting, before the election really got underway. What are you hearing around Arizona, urban, rural counties, about how fast mail delivery is going?
So we haven't heard any new information in terms of my mail is slower than what is expected. And we've been in regular conversations with the state postal officials so that we are aware of anything that might happen. For example, universally, the U.S. Postal Service started postmarking all ballots, and that wasn't a thing that happened before. So that puts them in a little bit of a different mail flow process than they were in before. Those kind of things, but it has not, nothing has seemed to affect delivery times, and we have been assured at every single level. I was on a call with Postmaster General DeJoy and was assured at that level and at the state level and at the local level that ensuring timely delivery of ballots is and will continue to be a top priority for the Postal Service.
And so far you've seen nothing in this state that contradicts that?
I mean, there are parts of our state that are very challenged when it comes to mail delivery. Mail goes from Apache County to Albuquerque to Phoenix to Flagstaff before it goes back to Apache County. But those are things that already existed.
Okay, let's talk about security as more vote centers open, and there are concerns that people might gather outside the vote centers. But beyond that, in your discussions with the Department of Homeland Security, other law enforcement agencies, what are they telling you to be prepared for?
So far, we haven't been notified of any specific or direct threats to polling places in Arizona, but we've been working with them in terms of developing guidance, sharing guidance with counties for poll workers, and with law enforcement. We, in fact, have those two guides posted on the Arizona.vote website so the public can look at them. I mean, right now our focus is on preparation and prevention as much as possible, and you know, how to intervene in the least possible intervene and de-escalate in the least confrontational manner that will solve the issue so that people can vote safely and free from intimidation.
How concerned are people at DHS and other agencies with that inside information about what might happen outside, that 75 feet away from the polling place?
I haven't sensed any escalated level of concern. This is the kind of thing that they're dealing with all the time around a lot of issues. So I haven't sensed any heightened concern about this election in particular. But I think that what helps me sleep better at night, and I think what can help folks feel assured, is that there are a number of officials focused on this issue and focused on Arizona. And we're at the point of having daily security discussions, both internally and externally, and are definitely in contact with the people who can alert us if there are threats out there.
And what about the internal issues, the equipment issues? In 2016, there were reports that I think Russians may have tried to infiltrate an election office in Cochise County. How much has our equipment been hardened against that kind of attack? And what's the concern level again among law enforcement?
So Russia, China, Iran continue to be the three sort of foreign adversarial issues. We are constantly patching with patches from Department of Homeland Security. We're sharing that information with the counties. And in terms of vulnerability, I feel very confident that that the systems are secure. Again, we know a lot more about this than we did in 2016. People are watching out for it, and we are certainly applying all of the preventative information, things the tools that were given.
How often is your equipment and maybe equipment of the counties, pinged by these outsiders trying to infiltrate it?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, I asked because 2016 it was almost constantly.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to answer that because obviously the election department in and of itself is not standalone. We're networked with the entire Secretary of State's office. And then there's the whole statewide network. The counties have the same issue with not having standalone. But in terms of the voting equipment itself, that is all air gapped. None of it's connected to any network at all. And so nobody's gonna hack into a voting machine. It just is not possible.
In Arizona, you can't do it, you're saying?
The equipment is not connected to anything that would allow someone to interfere with it.
Interfere. All right, I'll let you have the last word to voters with less than 2 weeks to go here. 2 weeks to go, I think, yeah.
Please, if you have election questions about voting safely in this election, go to arizona.vote. And if you can't find what you need there, all of the contact information for your county election officials is there. You can call our office, you can call them, and we will get to you as quickly as possible.